Welcome to hashtag 52 Needs, and this week we are exploring equality. And I'm privileged to have with me Bangu Masisi, who is an amazing woman. And let me tell you a little bit about her. So Bangu has a background in media and communications, and she started her career in South African radio, ending up managing high-profile national and international projects, including Nelson Mandela's first business industry meeting as president in 1994. Bangu has had a long and distinguished career directing and launching important African cultural and political projects. And she served as PR director and organizing committee member for the 2003 Cricket World Cup before she became first the general manager of South African tourism in Australasia, then the director for South African tourism North Europe, followed by serving as president of South African tourism for North America, including Canada. Bangu recently returned to South Africa and is currently crafting business success as executive director for Sapphire Corporate Solutions. And I'm very privileged to have her as my amazing friend who I've known for many years. So welcome, Bangu. I'm so happy to see you.
Always happy to see you, Angela, and thanks for having me.
So it's International Women's Day coming up. So this is the topic of the week. It's equality. And I think it's, I mean, as we've spoken about before, that Corona, as you mentioned, had become a big equalizer. It really leveled the playing ground. So we have more equality in many ways than we've had before. And as hard as the pandemic has been, it's been really moving things forward. But do we need to do more work?
Yes, we do. We do, especially that the Corona has actually given us the platform to actually rethink, more so, not even business, our personal lives. What's important, who's important, and at the same time to know that even if in personal life, even if you have friends, whether you talk to them every day or not, but you know that the day you speak to them, you know that this is my friend. It's not necessary. Nothing is urgent anymore. It's not necessary to talk to someone every day to know that they are your friend.
Yeah.
And even more so family,
I mean, let's look at us. I mean, we don't connect that often, but this is the thing I find is it's not that casual, we'll just catch up, but it's the very deliberate connecting that we're doing these days. And we're very present with people when we do things. Although I have to say, I talked to a guy the other day who said he was running 2 Zoom meetings in parallel the other day because he was just too busy to just have them one after another. And he said he still managed. I'm like, okay, well, that probably says a lot about your private life as well. But when it comes to really being present with people, and again, it's not about, and this is what equality is about. It's not about race, color, nationality, ethnic origin, religion, sexual orientation, age, mental, physical disability. They're all there. But when we connect as people.
Very true. And, the other thing as well is on a daily basis, I believe that as a person, if you don't enjoy your own company, I hope and believe that COVID has actually taught some people who actually can't do that, because I think that's that's the most important thing. And I've been fortunate that I've lived abroad for so long that I had to do it on my own. I didn't have to rely on anybody. But and when I look back, pretty much even when I was at home, I've always been independent, as a person. More so that I'm a middle child. So I always had to not necessarily fend for myself, but when you come from a big family, you just need to find a way of actually doing things. And I've always done things differently. I've never conformed, even if I came from a strict family. My dad was a principal of a school and this and whatever, but he always had to deal with me differently because I communicated to say, the reason I'm doing this, Dad, is because of this, that. And sometimes the siblings would say, but you let Bangu do things and whatever. And then you'd say, but it's because she communicates. I've always remembered that. Yeah. And when we talk about equality, and personally, I said to you earlier on, I think we are all born equal, even if maybe where I come from in South Africa, in South Africa more so, equality was actually segmented, was made deliberate to say you're supposed to do this, that, that, that. But in families where we come from, we were told that you are a child of the universe.
Mm.
Because our parents in their own way, even within that system, they wanted to instill in you that you are your own person.
Mm.
And hence the music was the one thing that actually got us going. And most that in the African feeling will always be about music, and dance is not about playing and dancing and like we are fooling around. It's the one thing that makes us happy.
Mm.
And it comes from the era then when there was serious segregation in South Africa.
Yeah.
That sometimes as children growing up in the 50s,
Yeah.
we sort of didn't see it because we were sort of cushioned by our parents in a way, because I come from a very small village. But the thing was, okay, in the meantime, go to school, read this, it's important, that, just to keep you busy so that you don't think much about that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you got to realize that, actually, I could do more than where I am now. And that's when you said, because of reading the books that's the one thing that actually liberated my mind were the books and coming from my parents.
Yeah, well, I think we've talked about this before. We have that in common because we're both absolute mad readers. I know I do the same thing. I survived my childhood solely because I read so much. And I had the same voices of other people in my head sometimes when I felt that, there was no equality, because I grew up in a house where women were second class. There was no equality. There was absolutely no desire for the male members in my family to support, what I wanted, and unfortunately for many of the women in my family as well, who had accepted that that was what it was. But books showed me a different route, as you
And
can
I think
tell.
yes, I can tell. And we actually talked about that as well, to say, even in the South Africa now, the one woman who inspired you was my mom. My mom was the boss of the house. My dad was a provider, yes, but I've never seen a liberated woman like my mom, that's the only woman I know. And I think she's the woman who actually encouraging to read, to explore, to this, and to an extent that we had a scroll paper on the wall. You remember the Siddhartha, the song? You are the
Yes.
child of the universe. We had it at home when I was growing up, and she's the one who instilled us into us to say that. And I was so happy that while I was traveling around, in Amsterdam, I saw another scroll, and I actually framed it because it reminded me of my mom.
Yeah.
And I realized that I embraced that spirit of saying, the world is your oyster. You can, and there was this thing at home, because there were so many of us, you must paddle your own canoe. Because there were 9 of us, 2 sets of twins. And my mother was very deliberate to say, not necessarily you are on your own, there was guidance, but you are your own person.
Yeah.
So personally, that's how I've lived my life, and that translated to probably the opportunities that I got in my career.
Yeah, obvious. Yes, I was just thinking back. I mean, mine is the opposite. I did things despite, of what I was taught to do. I mean, I would always say, if they told me I couldn't do it, I went, watch me. And and that's what's taken me around the world into different countries. And I mean, my family came to a place where they just went, oh, she's changing countries and careers again. And I went, I'm just, if nobody wants to support me, I will make it on my own. And it's really interesting that in the end, it turned out that the person who really supported me was my father. He could understand me best. He didn't show it. He was always the critical voice, but he felt that by needling me, he thought I was going to be a better person. I would have liked to have a little bit more obvious support, but I still am grateful that I had the opportunities that I had, and that the way he helped me. But yeah,
And he did it in his own way,
yeah,
the only way he knew how, if you think
yes,
about it. Mm,
yes. But
mm.
it didn't come from a place of you're equal. It was a place
Yeah,
of you actually have to
yeah.
work twice as hard to convince me that you are better than your brother.
Mm.
Oh well, that was the world, and I think that has changed, thankfully. I think women these days are treated with, in many places at least, with much more respect than we have been in the past.
And the other thing as well is it's not about even traveling the world. When you meet people,
Mm.
like, an example in point is how we met. It was un, unplanned and whatever. We just met, and most people who are my friends today, in a way, that's how I met them.
Mm.
In a place where you wouldn't even think that you're going to meet someone, that this person is going to be your friend, and
No.
that's me. That's the thing. I connect, and that's it.
Hmm.
And I believe in that instinct of,
Yeah.
when you feel a person. And that's how I go about my life, and I still go about my life today.
Mm. And I mean, I've never looked through filters of sexual orientation or race or religion or anything like that. It's just,
Yeah,
for me, what's important is the person in front of me,
yeah,
and how, as you said, how we connect. And
yes,
and for me, it's always, it's equality is also that every opinion has its place.
yeah,
I caught
yeah,
up with somebody the other day who said to me at the end of the conversation, I don't agree with everything you've said. And I said, what specifically? He said, I don't know, but just, And I said, well, I didn't think we had a conversation about agreement. I thought we had a discussion about ideas.
yes,
So, so that's, for me, that's really important. So that respect that we have for each other's opinions. Because I think the
yeah, yeah,
diversity
true.
is important.
That, yeah, the diversity is important, and at the same time, you don't necessarily have to agree with everything.
No.
It doesn't mean when you connect with someone you agree with all the, who they are, what they think about. And it's just like you say, diversity and sharing ideas,
Yeah.
and seeing things from other people's perspective. I think that's the
Absolutely.
most important as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
the one thing where I've got absolutely zero tolerance is for racism and for sexual discrimination and harassment. Zero.
Yes. Mm.
So it's all anything, any kind of discrimination. That's where I totally draw the line. You can talk to me about anything. We can have a different opinion, but when somebody starts looking down at somebody and says, I'm better than you because I am and you're not,
Yeah.
no.
Mm. I
But
totally agree.
but often we need to talk to people about it. I mean, I know that there was this guy, this black guy in the US, who went deliberately to introduce himself to Ku Klux Klan members and talked to them and said, so why do you hate black so much? And
Mm.
they had this moment of, float where they went, I don't know. And he convinced a lot of them that what they were doing was actually had absolutely no rhyme or reason. And he said he made a lot of friends. And I thought that was really impressive.
When you say that, I remember when I was leaving Sydney to go to Amsterdam,
Hmm.
I was having drinks and dinners and whatever with people just to say goodbye. And then
Yeah.
I was having drinks with a friend of mine from Bronte. And she met a friend at the same restaurant where we are. We had finished that dinner. We were now having drinks.
Hmm.
And this guy, then she introduced me to this guy. We got talking and whatever. And then she realized I come from South Africa. I mean, he realized I come from South Africa. And he just got on to me to say, and what you doing in your country there? What did they, the country's going down ever since the black government has taken over and this and whatever. I said, where, where are you coming from? And what do you even doing here in Australia trying to promote South Africa and whatever it is? I went off. I don't think you have seen me going off.
No, that would have been a
You
spectacle.
don't want to, yes.
Mm.
I told that guy, he never knew. Even my friend just sat there quiet, saying that dangerous country of yours and this and that. I said, well, if the thing is, if you don't want to go to South Africa, you don't have to go to South Africa. But do you think I'll be sitting here and getting, actually asking people and working with people who are selling South Africa to say, it's time for us to go to South Africa today, for you to go and get killed? I'm not
Mm.
crazy.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I just told him off to say, and it's just people who talk about things like that, uninformed people who
Mm.
probably Australians love traveling. He's probably one of the few Australians who've never been anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
That was
That, but
yeah.
see, I was very fortunate. I went on my first exchange program when I was 11. I went to the UK on an exchange program with a, school swapping back and forth.
Yeah, yeah.
And it really opened my eyes. And I think I always think that it's absolutely crucial for any child to go and live in another country for a while. And if they can, to study or travel for a year or whatever it is, because it's so important to see what the world is all about, and get an idea of the diversity. Because when you live in that small box that is your world in the place where you grew up, it's really, really impossible to understand how much else is going on. And yes, we've got the internet and all of that, but you and I both know that watching something on a screen is very, very different from actually being in the place and experiencing it.
Yes, yeah. When you say that, the exchange programs were not even in my radar when I was growing up.
Mm.
It was like, and when I look back, how I wish I would have explored the world much earlier than when I did. I
Well,
did know the world through books,
yeah.
because I read. But to your point, it's a totally different thing when you actually experience it in person. And I
Mm.
encourage all the young people now today in South Africa, to say, if you have even 6 months or even just go, don't hesitate.
Mm.
Because of where we come from, because of the apartheid, you were segregated and all of that, and to say this is where you belong, you have to just to stay there, you don't have to go anywhere. The culture of travel is still a little bit, like, can I even go to Botswana? Can I even go to Cape Town? For
Hmm.
argument's sake. So,
Yeah.
I'm still, the more and more I meet young people, when they talk about opportunities, and they would say, how is it overseas when you live there? I said, just go and find out for yourself. I can't tell you how it is, because it was my experience. And I
Yeah.
went there on a different, on an assignment. You go there as a young person and go and explore for you. Don't explore it for anybody else. And I'm more happier for young people today, because at least they have more opportunities than I didn't.
Mm. Yeah, it's much easier. I mean, I had a
Mm.
conversation with somebody recently, and we talked about travel, what it was like. I mean, I went talking about, well, we're still on the topic of equality, but this is a little side where going, travel arrangements were very different before the internet. There was actually adventure involved. Am I actually going to
Yeah.
arrive at my destination? Will there be a train waiting for me, or do I have the wrong schedule because that might have been printed at an earlier in an earlier version? But
Yes.
yeah, we have more opportunity to travel, much, much, much easier than ever before.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
Well,
So
of course, at the moment, COVID has stopped it a little bit, but I think beyond this one, once all this madness is gone, young people must it's even more the reason for them to
yeah.
explore, now.
Yeah. And the way we
Yeah.
are cooperating globally now, because, I mean, the Generation Y and Generation Z, they work together. I mean, if you look around and you look at artists cooperating during COVID last year, global projects, video projects where people work together, or not just video, but business projects. So people
It's
came
true.
together from corners of the world that had never even considered working together. We're all of a sudden gathered around the Zoom table, and we're dreaming up all sorts of things, which I thought was
Yeah.
absolutely fabulous.
It is fabulous because even my son now is on a constant, he's on constant meetings with, they're sharing their personal experiences, globally.
Yeah,
And he appreciates to see, to even confirm how the world is so similar.
yeah,
Everybody, we all have these similar experiences, even if we anywhere else in the world.
yeah. Okay. Well, since this is the week of the International Women's
Women.
Day, maybe we should just say that we still, I mean, we both agree that we still have a little bit of more, while we've equalized in many, many areas, I think with women, we could probably do a bit better.
I definitely, I believe so. I think we need to make it, I don't want to say a mission, but maybe that's for lack of a better word, to actually, to now deliberately support each other
Mm,
one way or the other. And we have to be deliberate about it. We have
yeah,
to make it, um, before anything else, whether it's friendship, whether it's personal, whether it's business, think before about a woman than you think about men, because not discriminating or whatever it is, but men are they got it, they got this thing because it's their thing, if I can be very blunt. But we get in there, but we need to work a little bit more on that
well, we need
to
to work
support.
to, I think we need to support each other differently. Men know how to do that. But I think we also need to support men in being able to express themselves in a different way. Instead of being the big boys don't cry, because that's
Yeah,
an inequality. And
yeah,
it's important.
yeah.
Again, women learn
Mhm.
from men and men learn from women. And I'm part of of the Campfire Project, which is a project launched by Alan Stevens. And we've got, after 2 years, we've got 1,700 members. And we have
Mhm.
discussions. And when men and women share their experience of what is it like to be a man and what is it like to be a woman, and we definitely can learn from each other. But it's the talking that really matters, the communication. And that's thanks to COVID. I chat with people all the time from different places all around the world. And yes, men need support, women need support. Um,
And I agree with you to your point. We need to now to start talking to each other,
mm,
where we see synergies, men or women or whatever, one or the other, And when I say us supporting each other as women, it doesn't mean leaving out men,
no,
completely
no,
not talking to them. But now it's got to be cohesive
yeah,
for us, all of us talking together, because I think we all want the same things.
yes. And
Yeah.
and my sense is there's a lot of confusion. It used to be really simple. Men would be men and women would be women,
Yeah.
and the roles were really clear. Men would park part of their personality, women would park part of their personality. Men were not supposed to be soft, women were not supposed to be tough. Men were not supposed to cry, women were, or girls were not supposed to be angry. And I think that's
Yes.
all, really now, it's loosened up. But I think there's a lot of confusion around, who am I, what am I allowed to be, what should I be? And that's when we don't talk to each other, it can get really, really complicated.
And it
um
shouldn't be. You shouldn't be asking yourself, what should I be? You should just be who
Everything.
you are.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
But to your point, it now gets up to where people want to think, who am I supposed to be? And
Mm.
I'm just who I am, and
Yeah.
take it as I am.
Yeah. Well, if you're watching this, I think it was last week that we did self-expression. So have a look at that video, because it's about being you, like,
Ah,
who am I?
mm,
And how do we show up? And that's, again, with social media and all of that, that's a totally different kettle of fish.
it
But
is.
yes, I think, again, supporting each other. For men, I think it's important that they learn that they don't have to be the provider, and women, I think, need to learn to ask for help. These are
Yeah,
completely generalized statements. I'm very aware of
yeah,
that.
not
But
true.
I mean, I look at the fact that women still do 2 to 3 hours more housework than men. No, and I tell you, I have got clients who sit in front of me and they say, I'm babysitting my kids over the weekend and I'm helping my wife in the household. And I go, right, really? You're not the father and it's not your home. So again, and women, and again, it's all about communication. And I think
It is
that's
about
the importance about
and
equality.
and to your point, women must come out more and more to say they need help in this area. They mustn't think because it was deemed to be a woman's area, you can't ask a man to do that.
Yeah.
We have to be vocal about it and to say,
Yeah.
I think I need help, in this area.
Yeah. And I think
And
men are
men
learning.
too,
Yeah.
men too should be saying, I think I'm feeling vulnerable.
Yeah.
I just
And
want
I
to
think they
cry
are.
my heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's again, it's completely redefining what gender is, but also looking at, what makes us unique, because we are very different in many ways. Yes, we are the same, but we are, as you said before, we're all born equal, but we are different, and it's the appreciation of that difference that I really, really,
I
that's
mean,
what I enjoy.
if we are different within the families that we are born in, can you imagine the whole world? We are
Yes,
actually so different.
exactly. And still we end up being the same, like you and I
Yeah.
sitting across the table and going, really, you
Yeah.
should be born in the same family. Well, thank you so much, Bangu. That's been a wonderful conversation, and I'm sure we will continue that, maybe in person, hopefully again at some point, and have one of our wonderful 3-hour lunches.
No, yes, no, we should. And you have a room here, huh? When you come to
You
visit
hear,
sometime.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the
Yes.
meantime, we'll see each other on Zoom, and
On Zoom.
thank you,
Yeah,
everybody.
I'll take care, and I'll talk to you soon. And it was really nice chatting to you.
Thank you. And thank
Thank
everybody
you.
else for watching, because this turned into a very personal conversation. So thank you for taking part in this. And we'll see you next week.